The studio floor stretches out, a vast expanse of polished concrete and humming server racks. It is not a place for creativity. It is a laboratory for human attention. Rows of monitors line the far wall, casting a flickering blue-white glow over the space. Jimmy Donaldson stands at the center of this light, motionless. He does not look at the crew. He does not look at the equipment. His eyes are locked onto a single, jagged line on a screen, the average view duration. It moves in real time, a pulse of data that dictates the rhythm of his life. He leans in, his face inches from the glass. The line dips by a fraction of a percent. He tracks the movement with his finger, his hands steady, his breathing shallow. The air in the room is recycled, cold, and smells faintly of ozone and heated plastic. Every second that passes is measured, logged, and analyzed. There is no sound here except the low, constant drone of cooling fans. He waits for the graph to stabilize, his focus absolute, ignoring the movement of staff in the periphery. To him, it is the only thing that is real. The line twitches upward. He exhales, but his eyes never leave the screen. The machine is running, and he is its primary component. He pulls his hand away from the monitor and reaches into his pocket, retrieving a tablet. The screen illuminates his face, casting sharp shadows across his features. He swipes through a digital document. It is a budget sheet for the next production. $2 million. The number sits there, static and heavy against the white background. He does not blink. He does not scroll back to check the math. He knows every line item, every contingency, and every potential point of failure. He taps the screen, opening the confirmation prompt. The cursor pulses, waiting for a final command. He looks around the empty studio, his gaze sweeping over the vast, dark floor, then returns his attention to the glass. He presses his thumb firmly against the confirm button. A small chime echoes through the room, barely audible over the hum of the servers. He sets the tablet down on a nearby metal stand with a sharp metallic click. The decision is made, and there is no path back. The confirmation chime fades, swallowed by the relentless hum of the server banks. Jimmy stands still, watching the studio floor. It is no longer just a space. It is a factory floor for attention. He sees the workflow not as human effort, but as a series of calculated inputs. This is the machine. It demands constant fuel, and that fuel is the next viral peak. He walks toward the edge of the light, observing the rhythm of the room. Every movement is synchronized to the demands of the algorithm. There is no room for intuition or artistic whim here. Everything is tested, measured, and refined. He watches a technician adjust a frame, the process cold and precise. It is an engineering project, not a creative one. They are not making content. They are constructing a trap for human curiosity. He stops, listening to the synchronized clicking of keyboards in the next room. It is a steady, rhythmic sound, like the ticking of a massive clock. He understands the cycle now. It is a loop of escalation that never resets. He is the architect of this system, yet he is bound by its requirements. The pressure to outperform the previous cycle is the only law that governs this space. Jimmy moves toward the glass-walled offices lining the perimeter. Inside, 50 people sit in rows, bathed in the cool blue light of high-resolution displays. There is no conversation, no laughter, no debate. The only sound is the soft, rhythmic clicking of mice and the hum of cooling fans. They are the silent army of the machine. Each person operates in a pocket of intense, singular focus. One technician scrubs through a timeline, frame by frame, cutting milliseconds of dead air to ensure the pacing never drops. Another stares at a grid of thumbnail variations, dragging sliders to adjust contrast and saturation by fractions of a percent. They are not creating art. They are running experiments. They test how a specific shade of red on a button affects the click-through rate. Every action is logged, analyzed, and optimized against the cold logic of the algorithm. They work with the precision of surgeons, dissecting human attention into data points. They do not look up. They do not acknowledge his presence. It is a factory of curiosity, where every pixel is engineered to prevent the viewer from looking away. Jimmy leaves the editing wing and enters the logistics corridor. The air here is different, smelling of cardboard and industrial adhesive. He walks past rows of shelves stacked high with merchandise prototypes. A plastic toy sits on a pedestal, its design finalized after months of focus group testing. He picks it up, feeling the weight of the plastic. It is not just a product. It is a unit of conversion. Every item in this hallway serves a singular purpose, to capture the value of the attention he generates. He passes a wall covered in shipping manifests and supply chain maps. These documents dictate the movement of millions of units across the globe. He stops at a table cluttered with packaging samples. Each box is engineered to trigger a specific response when opened. He traces the lines of a logo, noting how the placement is designed to maximize brand recognition in a split-second frame. This is the physical extension of the algorithm. He sets the prototype down, his movements precise and devoid of sentiment. The entire hallway is a warehouse of potential revenue. Jimmy turns a corner, and the hum of the logistics hub fades into a heavy, suffocating silence. This hallway is dark, lit only by the faint, flickering glow of emergency exit signs. He stops, his footsteps echoing against the concrete floor. He pulls his phone from his pocket. The screen flares to life, casting a harsh, artificial light across his face. It is 3 a.m. He stares at the notification feed, his thumb hovering over the glass. He has not slept more than 4 hours in weeks, and the lack of rest is a dull, persistent ache behind his eyes. He leans against the wall, the cold surface grounding him for a brief second. He scrolls through the analytics, but the numbers blur into a meaningless stream of data. He is the architect of a global machine, yet in this hallway, he is entirely alone. The silence is not peaceful. It is a weight. He taps the screen to lock it, plunging the hallway back into shadow. He breathes out, a slow, ragged sound that hangs in the stagnant air. He pushes off the wall and continues walking, his gait heavy. The empire he built demands constant input, and his own body is the primary fuel. He moves deeper into the dark, the phone clutched in his hand like a compass, guiding him toward the next demand of the system. The hallway seems to stretch, the walls blurring in the dim light. Jimmy keeps moving, though his limbs feel heavy, as if the air itself has thickened. Each step requires a conscious effort, a command sent from a brain struggling to process the lack of rest. He passes a series of closed doors, the silence behind them absolute. There is no hum of computers here, no chatter of editors, only the rhythmic thud of his own boots on the floor. He pauses, leaning his shoulder against a doorframe to steady himself. His vision swims for a second, the edges of the hallway darkening. He blinks, forcing his focus back to the path ahead. This is the price of the cycle. He pushes off the frame and continues, his movements mechanical. He is not just walking, he is navigating the hollow space between one viral peak and the next. The fatigue is no longer an abstract concept. It is a physical barrier he must break through to reach the studio floor. He reaches the end of the corridor, where the darkness gives way to the vast, empty expanse. Jimmy steps into the center of the filming area. The space is cavernous, a hollowed-out warehouse transformed into a labyrinth of steel and polished wood. Before him stands a custom-built set, a sprawling structure of platforms and intricate mechanisms that cost $500,000 to construct. It is a masterpiece of temporary engineering. He walks toward the center, his boots clicking sharply against the floor. He reaches out, running his palm over the surface of a support beam. It is cold, solid, and incredibly expensive. In 10 minutes of filming, this entire structure will be reduced to debris. He circles the perimeter, checking the tension of the cables. Every angle is calculated for impact, every surface designed for a single moment of spectacular collapse. The sheer scale of the waste is a tangible presence in the room. He stops at the heart of the set, looking up at the rafters where lights hang like suspended stars. He stands still, breathing in the scent of fresh paint and sawdust, fully aware that this meticulously crafted environment will be nothing more than scrap. Jimmy moves to the center of the platform and stands directly in front of the primary camera. The lens is a dark, unblinking eye. He stares into it, and for a moment, the vast studio seems to shrink until there is only the glass and his own reflection. He knows the math behind that lens. He knows that every frame he captures is fed into a system that demands constant growth. If the next video fails to exceed the last, the algorithm will stop recommending his content. It will bury him in the archives of forgotten trends. The thought is a cold, sharp intrusion. He looks at the red light blinking on the camera body. It is the heartbeat of his entire operation, and it is indifferent to his exhaustion. He realizes that he is not just the creator of this spectacle. He is its primary asset. If he stops, the machine finds someone else. He shifts his weight, his eyes never leaving the lens, searching for the spark that keeps the system satisfied. The silence of the room feels heavy, expectant. He is waiting for the cue, but he is already being processed. He holds his breath, waiting for the signal to perform. The silence in the studio is absolute, yet it presses against his eardrums like deep water. Jimmy feels the fatigue in his joints, a dull, throbbing ache that has settled into his bones after weeks of relentless production. It is not just mental, it is a physical weight, a heavy, invisible burden resting squarely on his shoulders. He tries to roll his neck, but the muscles are tight, knotted by hours of static posture and lack of sleep. He closes his eyes for a heartbeat, trying to push the exhaustion down, to bury the tremor in his hands. Every breath feels like a conscious effort, a mechanical process he has to manually initiate. He knows the camera is waiting, it does not care about his heart rate or the heavy, leaden sensation in his limbs. It only cares about the output. He forces his spine to straighten, fighting the gravity of his own fatigue. He reaches up, pressing his palms into his eyes, trying to clear the haze of sleep deprivation. He needs to move, to snap back into the rhythm of the machine. Jimmy stands motionless, his focus narrowing until the entire world is just the space between him and the lens. He reaches up, his fingers tracing the line of his jaw, grounding himself in the physical reality of his own face. He needs to erase the lines of fatigue, to smooth the exhaustion into something vibrant and electric. He pulls his shoulders back, forcing his posture into a rigid, ready state. He takes a sharp, shallow breath, holding it in his lungs to spike his own energy. Then, he begins the transformation. He pulls the corners of his mouth upward, forcing a wide, practiced smile that does not reach his eyes. It is a calculated movement, a muscle memory he has refined over thousands of takes. He tests the expression, checking his reflection in the dark glass of the lens. The tension in his chest peaks, a sharp, stinging sensation that he ignores. He raises his hand, fingers splayed, and gives a sharp, decisive nod to the crew. He is no longer a man. He is a broadcast. He holds the smile, his eyes fixed on the camera, waiting for the final trigger. He is ready. The darkness holds for one final, agonizing heartbeat. Then, the world shatters. A bank of high-intensity lamps ignites simultaneously, flooding the vast studio with a harsh, clinical glare that cuts through the shadows like a blade. The sudden shift in luminosity is violent. Jimmy flinches, his pupils contracting instantly as the brilliance washes over him, turning the previously empty set into a blinding stage. The hum of the power grid surges, a low-frequency vibration that rattles the floorboards. He stands in the center of the light, his eyes watering, his face locked into the rigid, artificial expression he prepared. The heat from the overhead rigs begins to radiate downward, warming the air in seconds. He feels the sweat prickle along his hairline, but he does not move. He allows the intensity to consume him, letting the light dictate the boundaries of his reality. Every dust mote in the air is suddenly visible. He is exposed, illuminated, and entirely trapped within the artificial sun he has created. The stage is set. He is the only thing left to burn. The air in the studio feels thin, scorched by the heat of the overhead rigs. Jimmy stands at the epicenter of the light, his lungs burning with the effort of holding his posture. He needs to bridge the gap between the man he is and the character he must project. He draws a sharp breath, but it hitches in his throat, a momentary betrayal of his own exhaustion. He forces the air down, locking his core, and pushes the fatigue into the back of his mind. He opens his mouth. The first syllable erupts, a high-octane blast of sound that tears through the clinical silence of the set. It is loud, precise, and perfectly calibrated for the microphones hanging just out of frame. The sound bounces off the far walls, returning to him as a distorted echo that fills the vast, empty space. He does not stop. He leans into the intensity, his voice rising in volume and pitch, driving the energy upward with every word. He is shouting, yet every inflection is measured, every pause calculated for maximum impact. He feels the vibration in his own chest, a physical manifestation of the persona he has built to survive this machine. The words spill out, relentless and practiced, masking the silence of his own mind with the roar of a broadcast. The performance continues, but Jimmy is no longer the one driving it. His body moves through the rehearsed motions, his voice hits the required crescendos, and his hands gesture with practiced precision. He glances at a monitor near the edge of the set. He sees himself on screen, a vibrant, energetic figure projected in real time. The disconnect is absolute. He is watching his own creation operate with a momentum that no longer requires his soul. The system is self-sustaining, a complex web of algorithms and logistics that he built, yet now it owns him. He realizes he is not the master of this space. He is merely the most essential component, a cog that must keep turning to prevent the entire structure from collapsing. He tries to slow his breathing, but the rhythm of the production forces his heart rate to match the frantic pace of the editing software. Every word he speaks is a data point. Every movement is a metric to be optimized. He is trapped in the architecture of his own success, a prisoner of the very virality he engineered. The pace accelerates. It is no longer a sequence. It is a blur of motion. Jimmy sprints across the set, his feet hammering against the floorboards. As he executes the next stunt, he reaches the drop point, triggers the release, and watches the structure shatter. The cameras pivot, tracking his every movement with robotic precision. Suddenly, the feed on the main monitor flickers and dies. The studio goes silent. Jimmy stops, chest heaving, his eyes darting to the technicians. He does not wait for a report. He lunges for the control console, his hands flying over the interface to force a reboot. The screen blinks back to life, displaying a plummeting graph. He growls, turns back to the set, and restarts the action from the beginning. He is running now, faster than before, his movements jagged and urgent. He needs the peak. He needs the spike in the data. He throws himself into the next take, ignoring the strain in his muscles. The machine demands more, and he provides it, feeding the algorithm with every ounce of his remaining energy. He only looks at the lens, waiting for the numbers to climb. The cameras are still rolling, but Jimmy stops moving. He stands in the center of the vast, empty set, the silence of the studio pressing against his ears. He looks at the massive, custom-built structures surrounding him. They are not just props, they are the walls of his cell. He tries to walk toward the exit, but a technician signals for another take, and his feet move before he can consciously decide to stop. The momentum of the machine is absolute. It does not care if he is tired. It does not care if he is finished. It only cares that the cycle continues. He realizes then that he cannot quit. If he stops, the engine stalls, the analytics plummet, and the audience moves on to the next distraction. He is tethered to the growth, a prisoner of the very scale he demanded. He tries to force a breath, but the air in the studio feels recycled, thin, and heavy. He looks at the monitors again. The numbers are climbing, and he is the one fueling the fire. He turns to the camera, his face a mask of practiced intensity. He is not a person anymore. He is a function of the algorithm. He raises his hand, signals the start, and begins the performance once more. The red light on the camera blinks to life. It is a rhythmic, pulsing eye that demands his soul. Jimmy stares into the lens, but the lens is not just recording him. It is drawing something out. He feels the pull in his chest, a vacuum created by the millions of eyes waiting on the other side of the glass. He looks at the monitors. The image of himself is crisp, vibrant, and entirely artificial. He sees the exhaustion in his own eyes, yet the screen smooths it over, projecting a version of him that does not exist. He tries to look away, but the camera tracks his movement with cold, mechanical efficiency. The studio lights feel like needles. He is the fuel, and the screen is the furnace. Every word he speaks, every gesture he makes, is instantly digitized. He is becoming a ghost in his own machine, a hollow shell maintained only by the constant, ravenous demand for more content. The studio is silent now, save for the hum of cooling fans. Jimmy stands motionless before the primary lens. It is the only thing left in the world that matters. He leans in, his face inches from the glass, searching for a trace of the person he was before the numbers took over. He finds nothing but the reflection of the empty set behind him. The lens is a black hole, pulling his focus, demanding the last of his attention. He knows the feed is live, that millions are waiting for the next spark, but he has no more sparks to give. His breath fogs the glass for a second, before the heat of the camera dissipates it. He stares into the center of the aperture, looking past the machinery, past the software, into the vast, hungry collective that he helped create. There is no escape. The system does not allow for a final exit, only a final performance. He does not blink. He does not turn away. He lets the camera capture the stillness, the total absence of resistance. The red light finally dies. The hum of the cooling fan stutters and stops. Silence floods the studio, heavier than the noise ever was. Jimmy remains in the center of the floor, but the stage no longer recognizes him. One by one, the overhead lights cut out, plunging the rows of monitors into blackness. The high-tech floor, once vibrant with activity, becomes a cold, gray expanse. There is no applause. There is no feedback, only the lingering smell of ozone and the cooling metal of the set. He turns to walk away, but his footsteps sound hollow, as if he is moving through a space that has already forgotten he existed. The monitors flicker once, showing a frozen frame of his own face, then go dark. He is gone, replaced by the architecture of the system he built. The studio stands empty, a vast, silent tomb of data. The screen is dark, and the cycle is complete.